You are now listening to the J Ade podcast.
We're getting ready to start this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the J Ade podcast. It's your boy J Ade in the building. We are back for episode 9 of season 2 of the J Ade podcast. This episode is going to be called Oppression Olympics Part 2. Today we have one lady, we have one gentleman who you already know from Oppression Olympics Part 1. But before I have them reintroduce themselves, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to follow me on social media at Joel the Great, JOETHEGR8, as well as my podcast page at j.ade.pod. But we're going to get right into it. Once again, we have the same lady and the same gentleman from episode 8, but we're going to have them reintroduce themselves one time for the one. So we're going to have the lady introduce herself first, and then we're going to have the gentleman do so right after. So, lady, once again, welcome back. What's your name? Where you from?
My name is Kirsten.
Okay.
Instagram, KRDOT.
KR dot, man. I know what it is.
Business page, Black Renaissance.
Yes, sir.
Follow both.
Yes, sir.
From the DMV.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Gentlemen, come on, man. What's your name? Where you from, big dog?
Yeah, so my name's Eni.
All right.
You could follow me on the gram at Eni Meanie. That's INIMEANIEE.
All right.
For the skits and the comedy and all those things.
Yes, sir.
And I'll actually be posting a Thanksgiving skit today. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. So, I'm not sure when this is going to drop. So today will be a previous date.
Yeah. Previous date.
But check his page for that content.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm from the DMV as well. PG County, Maryland.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Maryland.
Yeah, shout out Maryland, man. You know what I'm saying? We doing big things out here, multifaceted. But yeah, like I said, man, this is season 2, episode 9, and this is going to be the second part of the Oppression Olympics series, the second and final part. So the first part, we discussed a lot of various things about, from a cultural standpoint, related to upbringing and things of that sort, in terms of the cultural divide that takes place between the African communities and the African American community in the United States of America. So, that being said, I felt like it needed to be a two-parter because there was a lot more to be discussed. And we left off at a really good point, ladies and gentlemen. The point that we left off at was where Kirsten and Eni were kind of going at it in terms of the interaction between Africans and African Americans in reference to relationships. So specifically, we left off discussing her experiences as a black woman dating an African man and her gender and the gender roles associated with it. So I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to talk about that a little bit more. Specifically, what do you think are the gender roles associated with being an African man and dating a non-African woman? From both of you. So we're going to have Eni answer first because we had Kirsten introduce herself first, but we're going to get the ball rolling. Let's do it.
Okay, so if you haven't seen the previous episode, I'm going to need y'all all to listen to that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because a lot of what I'm going to say is going to come from things that I've already said previously. But like I said previously, there are expectations that are placed upon a woman in an African household, and these expectations as an African man, when you're dating someone who's not African, it's kind of hard to not have it's kind of hard to have those expectations for that person, just because you don't expect the same thing from them. But there are individuals who don't think in that type of mindset, and they're like, okay, I'm African, this is what I'm used to, this is what I expect for things to be, and you're not providing these things to me.
Can I give an example of something that an African...
And so the one thing that we definitely discussed in the previous podcast before we ended was serving the plates of food, things like that.
And Kirsten is definitely against that. So
right.
we go.
And fuck y'all niggas that was trolling me. I'm still not serving y'all plates, just so you know.
Okay, so Eni, finish your point. We're gonna talk about the.
But yeah, so like one thing was serving the food. Then another thing could definitely be like just cleaning around the house, or washing clothes, things like basically just catering to the guy. Okay. I mean, in layman's terms, it's basically that.
So you believe that African American women typically are not the type to cater to their man?
No, I mean, I think that it is not a... From my experience, and from what I've heard of my friends and their families and things like that, I think within the older generations, like the grandmas and great grandmas, they were kind of brought up like that.
Okay.
But like in recent generations, no, like they're not brought up with the like household standpoint that the woman caters to the guy.
So you say that just this generation's raised different?
I would say there's a difference in societal, standpoints.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think about that?
I don't think that we're like women aren't raised to cater to the man. One, I think that there's a discrepancy as far as like what it means to be a man. So I think in this era, not a lot of men are truly men, yet they have these expectations of a woman to treat them like a man.
What is the definition of a man to you?
What is a man?
I would like to know.
Like, I think a man is supposed to provide. Men are supposed to stand by their word. Like, men are supposed to carry themselves with like a certain level of respect. Men are also expected to treat women with a certain level of respect.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily feel like that is like the standard across the board for a lot of men. But then in turn, they expect women to treat them like this man that they claim they are, when actually you're not. Like, if you're like if you're my boyfriend, we're talking, we're dating or whatever, you're not providing for me. So if you're not providing for me, and not just in a monetary fashion, but if you're not providing for me emotionally, if you're not providing for me financially, like, why do you now have these expectations of me as a woman just because you're a man when you're not even fulfilling the role as a man, for one? And for two, I also think that the way that in which women cater now is just different. Okay. So maybe back when the women wasn't working, like it makes more sense for you to be more domestic, the cooking, the cleaning, the making the plates and things like that. But women go to school, women are educated, women go to work. So it's just a different level of cater like that you see now than you would have seen then, just because the roles have changed.
Okay,
but I have a question.
Okay. Before you hold that thought on that question, but I did want to know though, because Eni made a point in the first part of Oppression Olympics, right? Was that as an African man, you're kind of brought up to provide for your family, things like that, out the gate, right? And the question here is from the African American or woman's perspective, or from the Black woman's perspective, as you just defined yourself last time. African men typically do try to place themselves in positions of the provider. So let's say you're in a situation where this man is providing what you need, what you listed out, right? Financially or whatever else there was, right? In that situation, would you still be opposed to serving his plates? So he's providing.
So
you're saying that men are not acting as men, right? So I'm saying.
But I also follow that up with what it means to cater is different.
Okay.
So in terms of making a plate, if you're my dude, right? Okay. And you at the house, I cook the food. I look over, you might be working or you doing something.
Right.
And it makes sense for me just to make the plate.
Right.
Then the plate will be made.
Right.
But I'm not about to just sit here and let you sit down, watch TV, do whatever the hell you want to do, fucking do whatever. And I'm supposed to be here serving. That's not what's going to happen.
I got you.
Because it's not necessary. It doesn't make sense. Like, if I'm capable of doing it, you're capable of doing it too. Just like.
But that principle can be applied to literally everything almost. Right?
So let's think about this. You said it doesn't make sense, right? But you just made the plate, so you are the closest to the food. So it
not necessarily. Sense. What if I decided to go? No, because what if I go make the plate? Because personally, when I cook, the food I cook, it stinks. I don't like to be in the clothes that I cooked in. I don't like to sit around my house and them. They smell like fish. They smell like chicken. They might smell like whatever.
Okay.
I like to cook. Let my shit sit. I go change my clothes. Might take a shower. Might go do something else. All right. You could have made the plate. You could actually have made both plates. Actually, if you cared enough.
Was that your question that you were going to ask? Like, why?
No.
What was your question? What was your question?
So because you asked her what was a man, right?
Right.
So my question is, and she listed certain traits, right?
Okay.
So what is a woman?
Okay. Ooh. A woman, or specifically a woman in general, or like a Black woman?
But I feel like I personally don't. I feel like I answered that question as to what, like, my needs as a woman and what a man would do to fulfill those needs. That's what makes a man to me.
Okay,
so I don't really feel like I can answer what is a woman, because I don't know what you as a man need from a woman.
So what would you think a woman should be then?
I just think a woman is a nurturer.
Okay.
I feel like a woman also, to a certain degree, is a provider. Maybe not in the financial sense, but in the emotional sense.
Okay.
I just feel like a woman is a support system.
All right. Okay. And my next question based on that, though, so you said a woman is a support system, right? And you said that there are certain characteristics that a man must embody in order for you to feel the need to cater to him, right?
Yeah.
And I know that Eni made the point that there is a respect factor associated with it, right? So would you say that your, I guess, unwillingness to cater to this man is also directly related to your lack of respect for him, potentially?
No, because I'm still making the food. If I didn't have respect for you.
Okay. You wouldn't have made the food?
I wouldn't go to the store. I wouldn't get the food. First of all, if I didn't have respect
What
for
if
you,
you
I
bought,
wouldn't
what if
even.
you bought the food?
I wouldn't even take time out of my day for you. That's off top, like, because my time is money.
Oh.
If I'm giving you a slot of my time, that's respect in itself. And then for me to take it a step further, now I'm cooking for you.
Okay.
That's respect as far as I'm concerned. If you can come in the house and there's food there that you didn't have to make, all you got to do is go make a plate. What more respect do you need?
I think that from what I'm hearing, the difference is that you are basing your respect on their actions or on their worth, quote unquote, right? Like what they're providing for you, right? You said like they need to embody certain things for you to have to move forward in a certain type of way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also think it also because that's what you're claiming to be. Like, you're not saying I, out of respect, just make plates. You're saying that I am a man, you're a woman, so out of respect for me as a man.
See,
Is that what you think it is, though?
No, see, and I was going to say that's the difference. The difference is that, like, we've all played sports here, right?
Right.
You know how when they say you respect the position? So, like, you may not like your coach, but you respect the position of your coach. It's not the fact that you're
So are you comparing a man in the relationship to a coach?
No,
Not
listen,
even that,
listen,
but
listen,
see,
listen.
I think that's where it differs
It's-
because it's not respect your position, it's respect yourself, respect the role that you're.
Do you think his comment is an African mentality, or do you notice that amongst non-African men as well?
But hold on.
Respect your what
Respect
comment?
See, the position.
But that's what I'm trying to say. It's not the fact that you're providing anything to me. So, for instance, as a woman, right? It doesn't matter if you're an African woman or whatever type of woman.
Okay.
You receive respect on the basis that you're just a woman, period. So the respect that's given to the man is given on the basis that he is a man, period. Not based on the character, not based on his providing tactic, not based on whatever he can give you. It's simply on the fact that he is a man, I am a woman. There is respect given because of that.
Oh no.
Do you believe that he is a man, I'm a woman is the mentality that has been pushed because of your upbringing? Or would you say that this is something that you've just come to realize over the years?
No, I'm just saying this is something that I see. Like, so for instance, in my household, my mom does certain things for my dad because he is the man in the house. That's it.
Give me an example.
So, like,
but wait. So you're saying, but your mom would do that regardless if he was if any man was in the household?
On the pure, she's doing it on the pure basis that this is her husband. Simple.
Right, but I'm saying, so it's not just off the strength that he's the man.
But he doesn't do anything else.
But he's her husband.
I mean, but he doesn't do anything else.
But he's her husband.
You said clearly, though. I'm saying
calling someone my husband and doing things because they're my husband versus off the strength of them just being a man, that's not the same.
But even still, and then I was about to speak on that too. So even then, when other men enter the household, there's a way that she operates because they are men. It's simple. I mean, like you were saying before, and I keep coming back to this because you were saying that there are character traits or there are things that the guy has to have in order for you to operate in a certain type of way.
Right.
And I am saying that to my mom, from what I've seen in my upbringing as well as in other African households, that doesn't matter.
No,
you
but
enter the house.
No, but it does, because you just said it. You said that when your mom treats her husband a certain kind of way, it's different than how she treats other men.
I didn't say that.
So she treats her husband.
I did not say it's different. I'm saying that there's a way that she operates towards men.
But obviously,
so I'm asking, is there a difference between the two?
Yeah.
I mean, she's not going to be lovey-dovey with them.
Correct. So that's essentially what I'm saying.
But we're not talking about lovey-dovey. We were talking about respect.
But the respect that I have for my husband is not gonna be the same respect that I have for just some man coming in my house.
Right, but in an African household, there's a way that men are treated. So the respect is still shown. So for instance, if a man enters my house.
But I don't think I'm arguing that. What I'm saying is
clarify for
it's different.
Yeah, so I want to know. I want to know, like in a black, in a Black American household, right, Kirsten? Like, would you say that your mother takes the same approach as Eni's mother in terms of like, okay, so I treat my husband this way because he's the man of the house, but also if a man were to come to blah 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 place, like
the house,
I will also come to the house. I would also treat him.
See, no, I feel like in my household, it's just respect all around. Like
man or woman.
Yeah, you just respect someone for being a human being.
Okay.
Period. So obviously my mom is going to have like special treatment towards her husband. That's her husband. But it's not, you don't get respect off of being a man. Okay. You don't get respect off of being a woman. You're a human and you're in my household. So I'm going to show you a level of respect because that's a reflection of who I am, not a reflection of who you are.
Okay. And to piggyback on that, right? So last episode you stated that the definition of respect is dated. So I kind of wanted to get you to clarify that a little bit more. Like, what components of respect, I guess, especially in this case, we're talking about in terms of relationships, right? So what aspect of respect would you say is dated in 2019?
I just think, and I think, again, like, respect can be defined in different ways depending on what perspective you're coming at it from.
Right.
But for me, and how I was brought up, I feel like respect is something that is, you have like a baseline level of respect, a baseline level of courtesy that I'll give you, like, hi, bye, I won't, like, if I come into your house, I'll follow house rules, things like that.
Right.
But I think that associating respect with your gender is what's dated, because the gender norms that were in place when people were initially defining the terms of respect are not the same anymore. Okay. I think the term, like, coming at respect from a gender standard is like from back when, like, women didn't even work. Women were in the household. Like, the norms were different.
Okay.
Because even by that same, like, gender norm, like, concept, there's just certain things that, like, aren't even, like, the case anymore. Like, when I walked in this door, you didn't open a door for me.
Damn, I went to the restroom, first of all.
I'm just saying. So like,
ladies and gentlemen, when we arrived at this studio, I went to the restroom and told Kirsten to walk in, and that was me.
Right. But I'm saying, like, I feel like there's a time when if I was a woman, out of respect for me, you would have made sure that I got in here before going to the bathroom.
I could have gone out of my way.
Right.
You're
you
right.
don't. But you didn't. But that's not because you don't respect me.
I went to the restroom, ladies and gentlemen.
So I just feel like it's certain things like that are not being.
Is it really dated though?
I just said how it was dated.
It's not.
Why do you think so, bro?
Because literally in every culture around the world, they operate in the same way.
How so? Oh, no, we need
they do not.
They do.
So
if you go to African cultures, you go to Asian cultures, you go to Middle Eastern cultures, you even look at some Hispanic cultures, you look at South Asian cultures, they still operate with these quote unquote gender norms that
I
you're
feel like that's a
about.
Generalization. That
it's not a generalization.
You cannot speak for every other culture, Eni,
Bro,
when you don't represent them.
You can see it.
How can you speak for a culture that you don't even represent, that
Bro,
you never lived
you can see it.
You can think you see it, but you're not living that culture. You're not them. How can you speak for them?
I want to know how do you know? How do you know? Like, what
how do you know
exactly
that for
do you
a
see?
fact?
Yeah,
bro, you can. Okay, for instance, just in the same way, because, like, for instance, if you do experiments or if you look at just, statistics and things like that, or you just observe, half of experimentation or half of deriving, conclusions is based off observation.
Oh yeah,
right.
we're all on the same page as far as that goes.
Right. So what I'm saying though is that when you speak to these individuals that are raised in these households, when you look in the general sense of how these households are orchestrated, even some who, from an African standpoint, will be like, yo, y'all are wildin'. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all cultures are wildin'. From our African standpoint to theirs, they operate with certain gender norms. It is only usually the Western Eurocentric civilizations that think that everything else in the world is quote unquote dated.
Okay, so
even with him saying that, he's saying that in his culture, he looks at other cultures and says, "Oh, y'all are wildin'." So then if
just because wildin', it's different.
But so then there you go, it's different. So if you can say it's different, how can you then say it's the same?
No. I'm saying there are certain aspects that are different, but on the base level, there are still gender norms within all of the cultures.
Every culture has gender norms, but that doesn't mean that every culture abides by said norms.
So there's a
counterculture within every culture.
But most cultures do.
But Eni, you can't make that assertion. You don't know that for a fact. You can assume that, but you don't know that.
So what is your opinion on Middle Eastern cultures? How do they abide?
Exactly how you formed it. Opinion. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. So what you're saying is just an opinion.
When you look at Middle Eastern cultures,
I don't have an opinion because I'm not exposed enough to Middle Eastern cultures to speak educated on that. Like, I can't make that assertion without knowing.
I come from a Middle Eastern culture,
but you don't come from every culture in the world, Eni, and that's the point I'm trying to make.
Right. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and to that point though, right? So, Eni speaking on these other cultures, saying that everybody pretty much, aside from Westernized culture, abides by these traditional gender norms and things like that. So I want to ask you though, Eni, so in terms of your personal relationships, right, as an African man, no matter who you date, be it an African woman or, somebody who's not African, right? Would you expect your woman to abide by the same kind of codes of conduct that your mother abides by in reference to your African father?
No.
Why?
Because
what specifically would you cut out? Like, what would you change?
I don't expect
because
to really
I mean, whatever you say beyond this point kind of furthers Kirsten's point that it's dated, because otherwise you would abide fully by, like you would literally.
No, it would just cause conflict.
How so? Let's talk about
because I don't like conflict for real. Like, I am confrontational, but I would rather avoid conflict if necessary. And I know that if I try to, especially in America, if I try to find someone who, like, how do I say this? For me to have the stuff that my mom did to me, I would need to find someone who comes from my culture. And I don't think that I need to find someone who comes from my culture specifically. Like, I'm not that limited when it comes to who I think I should date or be with.
Okay.
So because of that, I kind of remove the expectation, because in an American society, I don't expect, especially today, I don't expect anyone to act like my mom. My mom is very, very, she operates at a certain level that if I even try to tell someone like stuff my mom did, they'll be like, yo, your mom is tripping. She's old. She's dated. Blah, blah, blah. She's dated. Blah, blah, blah. Right. But that's coming from America, right? But I've met people who came from Nigeria. I know people who have come from, Armenia and things like that. When they ask my mom, like when they say, oh, your mom is doing this, that's expected. That's
normal, yeah.
They say like, oh, that's just expected. And I remember Kirsten said earlier, women nowadays, they work, blase, blase, blase. My mom is the breadwinner in our house. She has 2 master's degrees. She's an ordained minister in the church. She does so many things.
But most of
she
those,
does so many
households
things
that you're talking about, those cultures that are the women the breadwinner in those households?
Bro, some of them can be.
But I'm saying most of the cultures that you're speaking on.
So you're stating that his scenario is an anomaly.
I'm saying that what he's speaking on isn't even the quote unquote norm that he's speaking of. Because most of these other countries, the women aren't even the breadwinner.
Even if they wasn't, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm saying that even with my mom being the breadwinner and doing all of these things, she still abides by those expectations.
Can I get some example of some of these things? Because you keep saying things, but I want to get some specific examples for the listeners. Like what traditional things does your mom do?
My mom serves my dad. My mom...
Every meal he eats, she serves it.
Unless she's not in the house.
Okay. Continue.
If my mom is not in the house, then my dad obviously will cook for himself or whatever.
Okay.
But my mom serves my dad.
Okay.
My mom, what's his name? So my dad doesn't drive. So my mom takes my dad to wherever he needs to be, unless she's not in the house.
Huh.
If see, like that's not even the norm. Because so for example, he's saying that his mom drives his dad. Most of the guys that I date don't even like me to drive.
And that's cool, but I'm just showing you.
I want to hear why that is, though.
I don't know why that is. They just it's just like a thing. Like
African men specifically?
No, just men in general. Like they like when I'm driving, like I usually let them drive. Whether it's my car, whether it's their car, I let them drive. That's just like one of those things.
Is that like an ego thing, or
I don't know what it is? Because even like growing up, like my dad always drove. My grandfather always drove.
It was
my
like
grandmother,
that for me too.
Right. So again, that's not the norm. So what,
dude? What I'm trying to explain to you,
what you're really explaining to yourself is that there's no such thing. You cannot make that generalization. No,
what I'm trying
because there's certain nuances within every culture.
Kirsten, you're not getting it.
You're not explaining it correctly.
No, what I'm trying to tell you is that you were talking about how in most scenarios, right, the man is the provider, the man does this, the man does that, the man does that. So it makes sense for a woman to operate in those gender norms. And I'm trying to show you that even in a scenario in which all of that is switched, my mother still operates in gender norms.
But what I'm irons speaking on is how you clothes. Brought up that
she does
how
all these
most
things.
Cultures, because you're just the expert on cultures all around the world.
No, the point is that it don't matter. It don't matter if she's providing or if he's providing. There's a norm expected on the woman or the man.
Your family doesn't even abide by the norm because she's the breadwinner.
She does.
These cultures that you're speaking of, the man is the breadwinner in the house.
Being the breadwinner has nothing to do with it.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not.
It 100%
Kirsten, it does not.
Oh,
it does not.
But it does.
No, it don't.
It does.
Because look, regardless of if I'm the breadwinner or not, in an African mindset, you are still supposed to do stuff for me.
Yeah, but in an African mindset, would you as the man not be the breadwinner?
Bro, you can't control if you're the breadwinner or not. What if you're a doctor? What if you're a doctor and I'm a school teacher?
Most African households, who's the breadwinner, Joe?
The man.
Thank you.
But what if you're a doctor and I'm a school teacher?
So then
what?
The woman is expected to do certain things. Why? Because the man is the man of the house. He's the breadwinner.
But he's giving you an example of a situation where the woman's the breadwinner and she's still doing all those things.
Which is what but I'm saying that doesn't.
I don't understand what she's not getting. I don't get.
No. But I'm saying I see both sides, right?
No, what I'm saying is that he made a generalization earlier, saying that things are across the board standard in every culture.
As it comes to treatment of the man, I'm not talking about who you're a breadwinner or whatever the case may be. You brought up the whole breadwinner stuff.
Because you didn't say as it relates to the man. You said,
dude, that's what I'm talking
about. There's
certain
gender norms. That's what you said.
There are gender norms are like household.
One of which a gender norm in other cultures being the breadwinner in the household is a gender norm. And we just sat here and debunked that shit. So what I'm letting you know is, again, you cannot make certain generalizations.
Kirsten, we are talking about things like when you're talking about serving people and stuff like that.
No,
that's what we're talking about.
No, we're not. I just told you what we were talking about. We were speaking about gender norms. That's what you said. Mm-hmm. And I just sat here and said you cannot make that generalization.
Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay,
Joe.
My bad. I was definitely recording it. Continue. My fault. Continue. My fault.
All I'm saying is, for someone that's in a situation that's such an anomaly,
right?
How can you then make generalizations? If anybody should understand that things are not the same across the board, because your situation is an anomaly in itself.
Okay.
My bad, y'all. My bad.
So what I'm trying to explain to you is that, look, okay, so I can use my household, and I can use another household in which the man is the what's his name? The breadwinner.
Right.
Right. My mom and that person's mom, as it comes to how they operate in the house, act the same. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Whether it comes to serving the guy food, whether it comes to ironing the clothes, whether it comes to washing the clothes, whether it comes to, just literally just being, a caterer to this person.
So, okay, so from my understanding, it seems like Kirsten's point is that your mom's the breadwinner, and that's not the norm, right?
Okay.
That's kind of what I got. But from you, you're saying that, yeah, your mom's the breadwinner and it's not the norm, but yet she's doing the norm in terms of the cultural,
cultural aspect of it.
If his mom cannot be the breadwinner or be the breadwinner, which isn't the norm, why can't she then break away from these cultural gender stereotypes as well?
Yeah.
Why does she have to abide by this, but she can make all the money and do that, but she still has to, that doesn't make sense to me.
Why do you think that is, though? Like, why do you think that she still feels the need to do these things despite the fact that she's,
and that's what I was trying to talk to before. It has absolutely nothing to do. It has absolutely nothing to do with what you're bringing to the table.
It's about respect, right?
It's the simple point of fact that this is the man. Simple. That's it. And that's what I was saying.
So because he has a penis.
It's because he is a man and she is a woman. There's a way that she operates to him. And there's a way that he operates to her.
He doesn't have to provide for the household necessarily. He doesn't have to take care of the household necessarily. He just has to be there and have a dick, and he gets treated a certain kind of way.
There's a way that he treats her, and there's a way that she treats him.
Right,
it goes back and forth.
Okay. So we already spoke about how she treats him. So I want to hear about how he treats her in terms of an African man, an African father. How does he treat his wife?
My dad?
Correct.
So my dad, he would just do whatever he could, like as it pertained to putting discipline in the house, establishing rules and construct. He was the one that led like all the what's them things called, like we used to do Saturday Bible studies, things like that. Okay. He basically was the person who put the house in order.
Who brought structure.
Yeah, he brought structure to the house.
Okay.
So he brought structure to the house as well as implemented like rules and guidelines to, how to live everyday life. He would make sure that I respected my parents. He would make sure that I would treat my sister in a certain type of way, just things like that. Now.
But what is, so he's adding structure to the, right, so here we go.
Okay.
Boom. As the woman, she is expected to cater.
I'm trying to hear your side too.
But she's expected to cater to her man.
Right.
Make her man's food. Make sure. But everything that he listed doesn't relate to the woman. You just named a rack of things that relate to the household. But what about her?
Okay.
What is he doing for her?
So what does your dad do for your mom? So you said that your mom, irons his clothing and gives him food and things like that, and is able to take him places when he needs to go, kind of thing. So what would you say in the inverse is done from the man? So Kirsten was correct in saying that what you mentioned were things that he was doing for the entire family, right? So like, just give me an example of maybe something that you can think of that he does directly for her. And I think this plays into even something deeper than that, of just like how African kids and in terms of what they see as like, affection in terms of men,
Yeah, like and I was going to say that. I mean, like, the role of him is not necessarily to cater to her specifically. Okay. There are things that he does in which, like, will make her specifically happy, like, in which I would say maybe, like, he would, like, buy her flowers, or he would take her out to dinner. He would, whatever the case may be, to make her happy at the time. Okay. But his role in the household was to bring structure to the house.
So you're saying that his responsibility isn't necessarily to make the wife happy, but it is more so about keeping the family, in line.
The entire family. That is what I will give my in my household. I can genuinely say that it was a partnership. So while there were things that my mom was doing for the household, while there were things for my dad was doing for the household, right, there was the balance in what they did for each other. It wasn't one-sided. So like, just like my mom was making sure that my dad had whatever he needed, my mom was doing, or my dad was doing the same. Emotionally, they were supportive of each other. Like, it just wasn't one-sided. And that's the problem that I have with it. Like, it's right now, we just listen to it. It's one-sided.
I mean, I don't know if it's really one-sided.
But we can sit here and you can distinctly lay out to me clear-cut expectations that you have for a woman and what she is supposed to do as it directly relates to a man. But you can't sit here and give me the same guidelines in the reverse. And we're speaking in a situation where the woman's the breadwinner.
I'm sure that an African woman will be able to directly say what the...
But if you're the African man, and you're supposed to give it to her, you can't even say it.
I mean,
so you growing up in that scenario where you said your father is, holding down the family while your mother is holding down your dad, right? So
the family,
she supports him,
and the family.
So that being said, what would you do differently? Like, when you get married, what will you like? Will you still kind of keep that same structure in terms of like, my responsibility is to this family?
No, I don't have that expectation.
Okay, why is that?
Just because, like I said, it will bring conflict. It's not the standard in America.
So this is a matter of avoiding conflict, not necessarily because you think it's wrong.
I mean, I don't.
So it's not. I
don't think it's wrong per se, but I don't also think it's right. I think that it fits whomever it fits.
So that's what I'm saying. So you believe that the way that you were raised, the environment in which you were raised, was not necessarily wrong, but you just don't think you'll meet a girl that's actually about it.
I don't think that it will fit my ideals.
What are your ideals?
So, like, for instance, like me, I'm more affectionate. Okay. Especially growing up in this, society.
This generation, right?
Yeah, I'm more affectionate. I'm more believing of, focusing on the woman. Okay. Especially maybe many people don't believe in religion or whatnot. Okay. But from a religious standpoint, the focus of a man should be his woman. Okay. And then vice versa. But, I kind of tend to that. Okay. Rather than a cultural aspect of how things are supposed to be.
I got you.
So my focus definitely will be more on her than anything else. Okay. But that's just me personally.
I got you.
Now, from a cultural standpoint, I don't think that it's necessarily wrong because it worked and survived for years and years and years.
But there's so many things that worked and survived for years and years and years that we now look back and say that was dumb as hell.
And I want to hear, Kirsten, specifically your kind of parental dynamic in terms of, because we heard, I guess, in reference specifically to, comparing an African household's, gender roles in terms of husband and wife compared to a Black American. So I want to kind of hear yours as well. What did it look like in terms of what your mom brought to the table versus your dad? Like, was it different? Like, were there things where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm catering to you in this way, blah, 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 while I'm just, I'm paying the bills and I'm leading, family stuff?
So I guess the reason I have my definition, like where I get what I feel like a man should be, obviously comes from my dad.
What you saw,
so
right?
In my household, my parents split like pretty much everything. Okay. Financially. Both my parents have always worked, and both my parents have had like great jobs, great careers. Okay. So they've always, I think, split their mortgage, My mom always had, I think, but both my parents, they came into it with their own shit. Like my mom was never dependent on my dad. My dad was never dependent on my mom. So then it created a situation where they truly were just with each other because they really fucked with each other. And it was a situation where they were just helping one another grow what they already had.
Okay.
And so everything in my house, it was very like, it just flowed. Like my mom would cook, my dad would cook. My mom would take us to extracurriculars. My dad would take us to extracurriculars. The only thing I can remember my mom being the only one to do it would be school shopping. Outside of that, my parents, they juggled responsibilities equally.
Interesting.
So when it comes to like making food and stuff, like right now, any guy that I date, like I've never dated a guy that doesn't cook.
Is that like a deal breaker if a man cannot cook?
No, because I'll just pick it up. Like I said, it's a partnership. So whatever you lack, I'll just pick it up. But I don't ever feel like as the man, like there's certain things that I just expect a man to abide by. But that's character. Okay. Right? But in terms of like financially and stuff like that, from what I've seen, it's a partnership. Okay. And there's never a situation where that I would want to be in where I feel like a man says that he does more for me than I do for him or vice versa. It's always equal. It's about working together.
Okay, so, and would you say that the working together thing is kind of to Enie's point of avoiding conflict, or would you say it's the working together?
No, I think it's just the right thing to do. Like, even because, so we can talk about culture and everything like that as if it's just some, like, equation, some hard factored equation.
And
but
it's not,
in real life, there's people, there's emotions, there's feelings, right? So if you're in a situation with a man and you fuck with that man, like, you're going to make sure he's good. So, of course, like, I can sit here and say right now, I'm never making a plate. But, like, if that's my nigga and he doing something and I want to make sure he's good, I'm going to make the plate. Okay. But, like, that's not to say that he's sitting there looking at me like, where's my plate at? Okay. Because vice versa, if I was doing something and I needed him to make me the plate, he's going to make me the plate.
But is that a deal breaker in your eyes? Like, let's say the nigga was like, you know, he's good at everything else, you know, but he's like, you know what, I feel like you should be doing that.
I'm not doing that.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, next episode's on deal breakers. You know, final episode of season 2. But nah, so
I'm not doing that because I've dated an African man who was very hell bent on like you make plates, and I told him no, that's not what I do. Like and I do this. Point, we argued about it, and at the end of the day, guess what? Guess who's still not forced to make plates? Like, cause he fucks with me. Mm-hmm. He fucks with me, and he knows this isn't that deep for me to not fuck with somebody over. So fuck it. We'll compromise. You make it sometimes, I make it sometimes, and it is what it is.
Okay, so but why are you not making the plate?
Because but she stated, okay, so pretty much she stated that the reason why she's not making the plate is because she feels that it's not right for you to say, because you are the woman in this situation, you must make this plate. Right. So I don't think the issue is actually making the plate itself, but it's more so of like, I'm gonna do it because I want to do it.
The expectation,
not because I'm supposed to do it.
You're not about not because I'm a woman, right? Because like I said before, he's saying certain things like, oh, you get respect as a man. Literally, you can come in this world with a dick between your legs, and I'm supposed to treat you a certain kind of way. Has nothing to do with how you treat me. Has nothing to do with how you what you do for me. Has nothing to do with how you respect me, how you care for me, how you cater for me. None of that matters. Okay. You expect me just to do something because you have a dick between your legs that you probably are out here giving everybody else too. Like that's not the case. I need some substance before I do. You need to show me that you're a man. Okay. Before I treat you like a man.
Okay, I think that's fair or understandable at least. Would you agree, Enie?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely see, look, he's stressed, man. He's stressed. So the thing is that I have my viewpoints, and then I have the cultural viewpoints. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my viewpoints are very different than the cultural viewpoints. Right, and that's because. And like I said this in the previous episode too, while men have definitely taken advantage of their position and, mistreated women and things like that, right? It's not one-sided. There is a manner in which women are supposed to be treated as well, just because of the mere basis that you're a woman. It's just that, unfortunately in our societies, men have not done that. You know what I'm saying? It sucks to suck, but...
It sucks to suck. You know what I mean? Sounds very dismissive. So.
Right. You know well.
Like, I mean, it's nothing I can personally, like I can't, I can't go around the world changing the everything. I can only do for myself.
To understand the cultures of the
world. Thank you.
I said I can't change it. I can understand it. Oh, okay. I can be better for myself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like I could be better for myself and for whomever I'm dealing with.
Okay.
But I'm saying like there are these cultural aspects. Like for instance, you know, again, a lot of what's based from my upbringing is biblical, right? So the Bible says that the woman is like the crown on a king's head.
Okay.
Right. So like the way that you're supposed to cater to your wife is so much so. Like you're supposed to it's like she is you basically. Okay. It's like she is you. Like if she is not, you know, vibrant and glowing and, you know, and just, you know, stand out, blah, 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 all these things, that speaks to you as a guy. Like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? If she is not where she's supposed to be. It's just that niggas don't operate like that. So as she's saying, it's like, oh, there's this expectation for women to treat men. There is also an expectation for men on how they're supposed to treat women, just on the mere basis that you're a woman. Like I said, some individuals abide to that, some don't. I personally try to abide to that. So...
Okay, and to that point of expectations in reference to women versus men, I kind of wanted to make a transition point here. I made the statement to Kirsten earlier. Kirsten was talking about, you know, the plates thing, right? But we're not going to talk about that anymore because we're not going to continue to beat that dead horse. But to that point of expectations, though, I kind of wanted to discuss with you guys deal breakers interculturally, right? So as I stated, there's going to be a whole episode on this next, but we're going to talk about a whole bunch of other things. But since we're talking about, you know, the oppression Olympics and this larger battle between Africans and African Americans, right? I wanted to kind of discuss deal breakers in reference to expectations that might exist within the African culture. So, for example, there's a tweet the other day that I saw that pretty much stated this girl, you know, had a boyfriend, and, you know, the boyfriend had met her dad, and she had told the boyfriend prior to meeting her dad that, you know, like, you know, in my culture, men kneel before, you know, elders, right? Mm-hmm. And the boyfriend refused to do so. So I wanted to understand from your standpoint, Eni, first of all, let's say, you know, somebody meets your parents and you tell them this is what you do and they refuse to do so. At that point, is that a matter of not respecting the culture, or is that a matter of I'm my own individual, and as a result of that, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and if they, you know, fucks with me, they fucks with me? And then I want to hear your point, Kirsten, in terms of maybe potentially justifying why somebody from outside of that culture would decide not to opt in to that. So I want to hear your point.
So
first.
Is this is my personal standpoint?
Your personal standpoint. So you got a girl, you know, Thanksgiving just passed, you got a girl, you tell her like, yo, in our culture, parents greet. You greet parents by kneeling down.
Right.
And they were like, no, we're not going to kneel down. So what would your response be?
I'd be like, obviously you don't fuck with me.
Okay.
It's clear as day. I mean, if this is how my culture operates, and I told you this previously, and you actually fuck with me, then just off the strength of you fucking with me, then I would expect you to do it, because I would do the same for you. If I came to your house and you were like, this is our culture and this is what we do as respect to the elders or to the parents. Okay. Just because I care for you that much, I would do it. But if you're not doing it for me, then it's a dub.
Okay. And from your standpoint, what do you think?
I mean, I can agree to that. I think the only time that I would go against a cultural norm would be if it required like any like physical harm or anything like that. Like, okay. I know, like, for example, certain cultures believe in like circumcision and things like that, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
And if I like that kind of stuff, like if I just didn't agree with it, I wouldn't do it. But if it was something as simple as kneeling, like I would just do it. Like,
a lot of people don't have humility.
So you think it's a matter of pride in terms of being able to...
It's a lot about pride.
All right. Well, how so, though?
Because, like, what big deal is it? It's a cultural practice that shows respect. Not only do you show respect to the person, but now the parents have respect for you that you were even willing to do it, especially if you're not even from the culture. That's like, yo, I realize that, you know, I want to be here with your child. Right. So I'm showing you this respect by humbling myself to do what, you know, you're asking of me.
I think it's that, but I also think there's like another side to it. Sometimes, like, if you're from outside of a culture and you try to like mimic, or not mimic, but like fall in line with certain aspects of the culture, and maybe you don't do it correctly or whatever, sometimes it can be a way for people to attack you. Like, oh, look at this person trying to be X, Y, and Z, and they don't fit in. I feel like that might be a facet to it too.
That could be it too.
Because like, even for me, like, I don't know other languages, right? So I don't try to speak them. Like, I don't. Like, I work in a restaurant industry. I work around a lot of
other cultures.
Other cultures. I don't even try to speak it because I don't want to sound stupid, right? So I just don't. So I feel like it could be a part of the two, like a combination of the two. Like, oh, maybe you just don't want to do it because you're not humble. But also, I feel like sometimes people don't want to look crazy and be made fun of for trying and failing.
And I think that's so interesting, too, though, that whole idea of not looking stupid. I actually didn't think about that because, I mean, that is something valid, though, right? You know, because it could be a situation where, because, you know, Africans are definitely known for being very judgmental people in terms of like,
oh, yeah, like even, I think about like, even if I was to get married and have like a Nigerian wedding and I'd be like seeing how they dance and stuff. If I try to dance like that and I look dumb as fuck, like niggas gonna look at me like I'm crazy.
Okay, so how about this point, right? So there's people out there. I saw a tweet the other day. This girl, well, not the other day, it's probably a couple months ago. This girl was talking about how she is like messing with a Nigerian guy, but she refused to have a traditional wedding. So like something as far as that, right? A traditional wedding, which is known
based
as
on
a
the
part.
woman.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. But like, I feel like at that point, that's a little bit too much. Like,
Wait, so you're saying the wedding is based on the woman?
Yeah.
So if I married a Nigerian man, I wouldn't have the expectation of a Nigerian
You don't
woman.
have to.
Fuck that.
You don't.
Nah, bro. No.
She doesn't. In Nigerian culture, you are going to their house to bring the girl to you.
Correct.
If she doesn't have
Correct.
a place to be, then you don't have to go.
Correct. But okay, for example, my homeboy got married to a Jamaican woman, right?
Yeah.
And she obviously is not Nigerian,
right?
And she still did the traditional wedding,
but she's not forced to.
But I don't know.
Okay, but I think that's interesting because
the background of it.
So for example, like if I tried to dance, like do the Nigerian dances, or like anything like that, like and I would be looked at like, what the fuck, like, if I did it wrong, right, or if I look corny or whatever,
right.
But it's like the expectation that I have a Nigerian wedding and be on this like big stage and potentially still look crazy. Like you expect me to have the wedding, but not. But there's certain aspects, like, because you hear it all the time, like, oh, y'all think being African is cool now. Y'all want to listen to the music. Y'all
which is true. It's the way.
But then on the other side, you want to be like, but you have to have a Nigerian wedding if you're with a Nigerian.
I mean, I feel like there's a way to do it and not look dumb, and there's a way to be.
But how does your logic on kneeling not apply to the wedding itself? You're saying the girl does not fuck with you enough.
The basis of an African wedding is on the woman. So, for instance, like I said before, you, the man, are going to the tribe or to the household of the woman
to take
and
her
collecting her from her family to come to your family.
Correct.
So usually when you have a wedding, it's whose culture? The woman's culture, right?
I don't know about that. In my experience,
it is, bro, because literally my man's just got married. He's from Sierra Leone and she's from Nigeria.
Okay.
They had a Nigerian traditional wedding. My auntie, he asked his mom, he said, what if I married someone from Cameroon or blah, blah, blah?
Okay.
She, a Yoruba woman, told him you would have whatever traditional wedding from their house. You're going to their house to respect them and do what they want so that you can bring the woman to you. If she doesn't want to have the traditional wedding, if she's not of that culture or of any culture that has traditional weddings in that manner, you do not have to do it. She does not have to do it either.
I don't know. I feel like the same logic applies, right? So if you're saying that her not kneeling down for your parents is a sign of disrespecting the culture, I feel like.
But I guess the difference that he's making is that if you were having a wedding, like he said before, you're going to her. But if she's coming to your house, you're now in his house, so you have to abide by his cultural standards.
But that's what I'm saying, though. I feel like if y'all, like, I have no problem implementing, portions of your culture into our wedding as well.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I would like for you to accept that this is something that happens in my culture, so let's do that too.
But in your culture, which is Nigerian culture, right? And it's different by tribe, but in most cases we can agree to the fact that you are abiding by the standard of the household of the woman, not of your own house.
I understand that. You're supposed to go to her house, theoretically. Yeah. I mean, in some cases, some people do travel out to the city where the wife is from, and that's where the wedding.
That's not what I mean. I'm not talking about physically traveling, bro.
Okay.
I'm going to try to explain this.
Break it down for me because I'm definitely having a traditional wedding. Facts. Okay. But continue.
So this is the thing. So I think I get what you're saying in the fact that you desire to have a traditional wedding, right? So you desire to have a traditional wedding, and you'll probably explain to your wife, like, hey, I would like to have this wedding because it means a lot to me and blah, 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 blah. But traditionally, according to the culture, traditional weddings are based on the woman's family.
Okay.
So if you wanted to really abide by the tradition, if the family of the woman said we're not doing this,
okay,
then what are you gonna do?
All right, so Kirsten, in your situation, right? So you love yourself some Nigerian men, right? You know what I'm saying?
I love all men.
Nigerian men specifically. you said that on the last episode, man. We can rewind that. But did
I say that?
You said you know I like African men, Joe.
yeah. She was like, and they like me too. She said something like that.
Whoa.
Nah.
That wasn't me. That was KR.
No. But to that point though, right? So let's say you were to marry a Nigerian man, and he said, "Yo, bro, like I want to have not only our church wedding with the reception, but I would also like to have a traditional wedding." What would your response be?
I'd be with it, because to me, if I'm dating a Nigerian man, it's because like I not only love the man, but I love the aspects of his culture too.
Right.
Like,
and that's my point, bro.
And it's a culture that I'm not privy to, and I know if I have kids, that's going to be a part of their culture and a part of their heritage.
Right.
So I would welcome it completely.
And what I'm saying to you though is that was her choice.
Right.
If my husband said to me like we're having a traditional wedding, I'd be like, fuck it, okay. Like
That's what I'm saying though. Like it's not even a matter of like, oh, I'm forcing you to have it, but I'm just saying like, if you're marrying me, bro, you know I'm Nigerian, bro.
That's like
you know
me saying like that's like me like not wanting to eat like the food and shit. Like that's weird.
That was another point I was going to talk about. Like in terms of like, is that something where you draw the line? It's like, oh, like I don't fuck with you, but I don't fuck with none of y'all meals. Like you feel me? Like you gonna have to.
So what if they don't like the food? Now what?
But like any of the food, period, like they're not open to it. They're like, nah, bro, I'm gonna stick with what I know.
That's different. I'm saying like, what if they don't like the food? Like
and they don't like the taste
okay, no,
of it.
but what if I was like, I'm never gonna cook Nigerian food? Like, what if I said that to you?
I mean, if you're never gonna cook Nigerian food, that's straight off the.
Bro, my sister is obviously Nigerian, and she did not have a Nigerian wedding because she didn't want one.
I mean, and that's on her,
and
right?
her husband is Nigerian. He didn't force her to have one.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. You cannot force her to have it.
Yeah,
but
especially
I'm saying, like,
by traditional culture.
But I'm saying, in my ideal scenario, bro, my wife should fucks with me enough.
Yeah. No,
like,
I agree. I agree. No, I
like,
agree with that. I agree with that. I'm just saying it on the basis of like how you, because basically what you said earlier.
Joe, basically, Eni is our culture expert
extraordinary,
and he is just giving you his National Geographic badge of honor.
Well versed
as to what you should be doing.
Multiple cultural
it's not even that.
Coming out.
All I'm saying is that you said earlier you were like, we're having one,
right?
And I was
no, I'm for sure like facts, bro. Like I think, and honestly, like I said, like that may be. I mean, is that because you was talking about before? Is that a deal breaker for you? I wouldn't say that's a deal breaker, but that kind of lets me know like how you feel about my culture. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to kind of take that. But first of all, before I even propose, I'm going to kind of already know what type of time you on.
Exactly.
So it wouldn't even be a debate.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So it wouldn't even reach that point where the deal is broken because it'd be like, you know what I mean? Like, let's see how much you really feel in the culture, to be honest. So I don't think I would really encounter that situation personally just because I'm a Yoruba boy through and through. You feel me?
Yeah.
But
I mean, I want to have one too.
Right.
But if
you can't force it.
If she says so let's say I marry somebody who's not Nigerian, right? I want to have one, right?
Right.
If she doesn't provide a cultural wedding for me, and she's like, I don't have like, let's say she's with it, but she doesn't have like a culture that she's claiming or what have you.
Right.
Then you'll do mine. You'll do my culture.
Yeah.
Like you'll do a BBO traditional wedding. But if she's just like, nah, then I'm gonna have, like you said, I'm gonna step back and be like,
Okay.
So what if so who's paying for it then? What if she's like, I ain't paying for no traditional wedding.
I mean, at that point, you kind of have to, you have to take responsibility for it, especially if it was your idea.
Yeah.
But I mean, to that point, I mean, if she's not trying to pay for it, even then, that's another thing about, that now I know how you really feel. But I mean, we can get into that for days, ladies and gentlemen. But we'll talk about deal breakers a little bit. But like I said, we got a whole episode devoted to that for season 2, episode 10, the finale of the second season of the JID podcast, man. Once again, man, this has been season 2, episode 9, Oppression Olympics Part 2. We got KR Dot. We got our boy Edie Meany in the building, man. Before I wrap this up, I want to make sure that y'all follow me on social media at Joe the Great, JOETHEGR 8, as well as my podcast page at j.ade.pod. As usual, man, I have to say my sincere gratitude. Say thank you to the ladies and gentlemen out there who've been listening and rocking out with me thus far, man. Appreciate it, man. We're going to end this season out right. We out.